Hello all you freedom-loving people. The Supreme Court's been busy. The talk between Putin and Xi Jinping that was caught on a hot mic is being removed by Reuters. I wonder why. And there's no surprise that the CCP used espionage to influence the tariff trade talks. Okay, let's get into it. Today, the Supreme Court temporarily suspended a lower court order that restricted immigration stops in Southern California. The Supreme Court placed a hold on the lower court decision that blocked the factors that law enforcement officials may use when making immigration-related stops and arrests. This all started in July when a judge blocked ICE raids in Los Angeles, saying that they allegedly violated the Fourth Amendment. Then the Ninth Circuit agreed, so now the Trump administration has taken the fight to the Supreme Court. Specifically, the lower court barred the Department of Homeland Security from stopping or arresting individuals based exclusively on factors such as the language the person speaks or where the person works. The case will continue up the legal chain while ICE can continue its operations uninhibited in the meantime. And while the ICE case is moving through the courts, the Supreme Court is also at the center of another high-stakes battle. This time it's over tariffs and the Treasury's next move. Yesterday, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told NBC News that the Treasury Department might be forced to issue tariff-related rebates if the Supreme Court upholds a lower court order that is attempting to block a large portion of the tariffs, but Bessent noted that the Trump administration is confident of winning the Supreme Court case. Bessent also said that there are other avenues to imposing tariffs if the Supreme Court blocks them. If that's the case, he said, we would have to give a refund on about half the tariffs, which would be terrible for the Treasury. On the same day, National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett also told CBS News that there are other legal avenues to implement the duties. These legal ways include Section 232 tariffs, which allow President Trump to restrict imports into the United States. The comments came after the administration officially asked SCOTUS to take up the case in November. The Trump administration argues that the appeals court order affects negotiations on trade deals. And today, the Supreme Court temporarily allowed the Trump administration to fire Federal Trade Commission member Rebecca Slaughter after a federal appeals court reinstated her last week. Chief Justice John Roberts issued an administrative stay on the appeals court ruling, which gave the justices additional time to fully review the case. Chief Justice John Roberts also gave Slaughter a deadline. Slaughter must file her response by 4 p.m. on September 15th. And as the administration is waiting for the Supreme Court decision about tariffs, a new twist has emerged which indicates that Chinese hackers tried to meddle in the trade talks. Yesterday, the Wall Street Journal reported that the FBI is investigating Chinese hackers who posed as a top U.S. lawmaker during trade talks. The scheme allegedly targeted trade talk groups with fake emails that were sent under the name of Representative John Moolenaar, who chairs the China Committee. So how did this happen? In July, just as the trade talks with China were about to kick off in Sweden, House committee staffers who were focused on U.S. competition with China started getting strange and puzzling inquiries. Several trade groups, law firms, and even government agencies got emails that looked like they were from Chairman Moolenaar. These emails asked for feedback on the sanctions that lawmakers were planning to hit the CCP with. One email said, "Your insights are essential." And it asked the group to review a draft bill that was attached to the email. But here's the catch. Why was it sent from a non-government address? So it turned out it was part of yet another cyber espionage campaign that was linked to the Chinese Communist Party. Hackers tried to find out what advice President Trump was getting from outside sources. The security firm Mandiant found that if anyone clicked on that fake draft bill, spyware could let hackers dig deep into the targets. But so far, no one knows if they've actually broken through. The FBI also said that the group behind the emails belongs to the CCP's most prolific hacker group. In response, Chairman Moolenaar called the move another cyber attack by the CCP to steal our strategies. But Moulinar said, "We will not be intimidated." And the CCP responded by calling the hacking claims a distraction. The Chinese embassy said that the CCP firmly opposes smearing others without solid evidence. In fact, the Moulinar case isn't the only impersonation case. Back in July, we reported that an imposter had used AI to fake Secretary of State Marco Rubio's voice. And back in May, federal agents probed an attempt to impersonate White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. But it's unknown who either imposter was. Japan is the world's fourth largest economy, and it's also a close ally of the United States. But Japan now faces political uncertainty while tensions with China rise and while regional insecurity grows. Yesterday, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba announced that he is stepping down after 2 election losses. Previously, Ishiba insisted on staying in office as he argued that Japan must avoid a political vacuum as it confronts U.S. tariffs, inflation, race policy reforms, and rising regional tensions. But now he said that the timing is right, since he made a deal with President Trump that eased tariffs on Japanese cars and exports. Staying longer in office would have left Ishiba struggling with a divided party and with a weak government. Ishida stepped down just 1 day before he was set to decide whether to hold an early leadership election, which was essentially a vote of no confidence in Ishiba. Back in July, the Ishiba coalition failed to win a majority in Japan's upper house, which was a fresh blow to his struggling administration. This was while the lower house majority was already gone. So following the election loss in the upper house, the Liberal Democratic Party's review called for a complete overhaul for Ishiba, which led to an early leadership vote or his resignation before September 8th, and Ishiba chose to resign. At a press conference on September 7th, Ishiba said that he'd start the process of choosing a new leader so the decision on December 8th would not be necessary. Now, the ruling party of Japan is expected to elect its new leader early in October. Ishiba took office back in October of 2024 with promises to tackle the rising prices, but then he struggled to build confidence as the country faced economic headwinds, a cost of living crisis, and troubled relations with the U.S. The sharp rise in inflation, which was led by rice prices doubling in the last year, has undermined political stability. Also, a series of scandals further reduced Ishiba's public support. The scandals included criticism of his decision to appoint only 2 women to his cabinet and handing out expensive gifts to party members. On Friday, House Speaker Mike Johnson explained that President Trump served as an FBI informant to help bring down Jeffrey Epstein.
He's not saying that what Epstein did is a hoax. It's a terrible, unspeakable evil. He believes that himself. When he first heard the rumor, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down. The president knows and has great sympathy for the women who have suffered these unspeakable harms. It's detestable to him. He and I have spoken about this as recently as 24 hours ago.
The speaker's comments came after a bipartisan group with 10 Epstein victims. They urged Congress to pass legislation requiring all documents to be released. The group also said that they would release their own client list since the Department of Justice recently said that Epstein did not maintain a client list. Yesterday, President Trump announced that European leaders are heading to the U.S. to meet with him at the White House one by one to talk about ending the Russia-Ukraine war. Talking with reporters at Joint Base Andrews after returning from the U.S. Open, President Trump said that meetings were set for today and tomorrow. And on Sunday, President Trump once again said that he's not happy about the current state of negotiations with Russia.
Nobody was tougher in Russia than me. That has to do with the pipeline, as you know, Nord Stream 2 and lots of other things. But I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I'm not happy about the whole situation. You know, it's interesting. It doesn't affect us because it's not our soldiers. But they're losing now. I used to tell you 5,000. They're losing 7,000 between Ukraine and Russia, 7,000 soldiers every single week. It's such a horrible waste of humanity. So, no, I am not thrilled with what's happening there, I will tell you.
President Trump also signaled that his administration is ready to impose more sanctions against Russia without going into details.
Are you ready to move to the second phase of sanctions against Russia or punishing Putin? How was your call with the Prime Minister?
Overnight on Sunday, Russia fired more than 800 drones and missiles at Ukraine, which is believed to be its biggest aerial assault since the beginning of the war. Ukraine President Zelensky said that at least 4 people were killed, dozens were hurt, and a government building was hit in the attack. President Zelensky also said that Ukraine is working with France on new steps to strengthen its defenses. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent also told NBC News that the U.S. is ready to ramp up pressure on Russia, and he stressed that Europe needs to step up too.
We are prepared to increase pressure on Russia, but we need our European partners to follow us, because if the U.S. and the EU do this together, we are in a race now between how long can the Ukrainian military hold up versus how long can the Russian economy hold up. And if the U.S. and the EU can come in, do more sanctions, secondary tariffs on the countries that buy Russian oil, the Russian economy will be in full collapse, and that will bring President Putin to the table.
Today, crude oil prices rose after OPEC Plus announced that it would raise output at a slower pace because of concerns that the Russia-Ukraine war would drag on. Yesterday, OPEC Plus said that the October increase of 137,000 barrels per day reflected steady market fundamentals. But now OPEC Plus could pause or reverse the adjustment depending on conditions. The renewed escalation of the conflict in Ukraine is contributing to the rise in oil prices, and positive oil demand data from China also adds to the situation. OPEC currently has 13 member countries, but OPEC Plus, which is a broader coalition established in 2016, includes OPEC members along with non-OPEC countries such as Russia, Oman, Kazakhstan, and Mexico. Last week, we reported that an exchange between Xi Jinping and Putin was caught on an open mic on September 3rd when the two leaders walked together before the military parade in Beijing. But soon after that, the CCP pulled back the hot mic footage. So critics say that it's proof that Beijing doesn't want the world focusing on this taboo topic. During the conversation, Xi Jinping told Putin that these days at 70, you're still a child, to which Putin replied that ongoing organ transplants could keep people young and even make them immortal. Xi Jinping added that some predicted humans might live for 150 years. And the exchange became viral worldwide. It sparked discussion about the CCP's forced organ harvesting. But the CCT moved fast and they took down the live stream and they wiped the moment from all replays. The CCTV also sent a legal letter to Reuters and claimed that the 4-minute clip that Reuters published went beyond the agreement, and the CCP demanded that the footage be pulled. In response, Reuters pulled the video and sent a kill notice to their clients. Reuters admitted that the footage was sent to over 1,000 media outlets worldwide, but then Reuters said that they had to pull it back because they no longer had the legal rights to keep it published. According to the London-based China Tribunal, forced organ harvesting has taken place in China for years on a significant scale, and practitioners of the Falun Gong spiritual group are the primary victims, with other persecuted minorities such as Uyghurs in Xinjiang, Tibetans, and House Christians also at risk. Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, is a spiritual practice that encourages practitioners to live by the core principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. It was first introduced to the public in 1992, and it grew quickly. Official estimates indicate that at least 70 million people had picked up the practice in China by 1999. But the CCP viewed the growing popularity of Falun Gong as a threat to its authoritarian rule, since there were more Falun Dafa practitioners than there were CCP members. So the CCP responded by launching a brutal persecution campaign, which continues to this day. And in response to the recent demand by the CCTV to take down the hot mic footage, an Australian advocacy group, the International Coalition to End Transplant Abuse in China, said that the CCP's demand was no surprise. The group said that the Chinese transplant system is linked to crimes against humanity. Such a conversation in China immediately raises the specter of forced organ harvesting from prisoners of conscience. The group said that efforts to suppress media coverage risks silencing victims, and they stressed that independent journalism is the key to uncovering systemic human rights abuses. In our last episode, we explained why the Chinese Communist Party values North Korea as a strategic buffer and bargaining chip, and why Kim Jong-un relies on China to sustain his regime, especially while Russia is tied up in war. We also looked at Kim Jong-un's choice of traveling by armored train, which is a long-standing family tradition that is rooted in fears of assassination and a desire for security. Finally, we discussed his daughter Kim Joo-ai's rare public debut on his trip, which many see as an early sign of her being positioned as the next heir to the Kim dynasty. And we asked why North Koreans continue to accept the Kim dynasty. Today, we explain how decades of propaganda turned the family into something larger than life. The Kim family has used propaganda tools to portray themselves as deities. North Korea is a sealed-off nation whose people remain ignorant of the outside world. Within its borders, the Kim dynasty spans 3 generations. Kim Il-sung is the sun, Kim Jong-il is the light, and Kim Jong-un is the dawn. In essence, all of them are associated with sunlight, which is an indispensable element for humanity. The 3 generations of the Kim family are revered as gods, and the Kim regime is deemed irreplaceable. This mindset has become almost set in stone within North Korea. The system began with Kim Il-sung, the first leader of North Korea. The official North Korean calendar, the Juche calendar, designates 1912, the day of Kim Il-sung's birth, as year 1 of Juche, marking the start of its chronology. In Kim Il-sung's memoirs, he claimed to have joined the anti-Japanese war at the age of 6 and the independence war at the age of 8. He was portrayed as a great military strategist and the father of the North Korean people. In 1980, Kim Il-sung announced that his son Kim Jong-il would succeed him. Historians generally believe that Kim Jong-il was born in a military camp in the Soviet Far East. However, North Korea officially claims that he was born on Mount Pak-2, which is considered sacred by Koreans. They state that on the day of his birth, a new star appeared in the sky along with 2 rainbows. Kim Jong-il had 3 sons and 2 daughters. In 2009, Western media reported that Kim Jong-il had selected his youngest son, Kim Jong-un, as his successor. The following year, the two appeared together at a military parade. Another year passed and Kim Jong-il passed away. North Korea state media reported a series of supernatural phenomena at the time of his death. They reported a sudden blizzard struck Mount Pak-2. A loud cracking sound emanated from the frozen lake surface, and glowing characters appeared on the rocks. When Kim Jong-un ascended to power, little was known about him. Even his birth year remained uncertain, whether it was 1982 or 1984. One account suggests Kim Jong-un was not initially designated as successor. As the 3rd son, he was not considered heir apparent during his youth. His time studying in Switzerland was viewed within North Korea's political circles as a form of abandonment. His half-brother Kim Jong-nam, the eldest son, enjoyed the exclusive affection of both his grandfather and father. Kim Jong-il ultimately chose Kim Jong-un as his successor because he believed that he shared similarities such as ruthlessness. Kim Jong-un's older brother, Kim Jong-nam, was poisoned at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia in 2017, and it's widely believed that it was ordered by Kim Jong-un. As the eldest son, Kim Jong-nam, though gentle-natured and distant from politics, could have been exploited by Kim Jong-un's political rivals to overthrow Kim Jong-il's rule. Kim Jong-un resembles his grandfather more than his father, both in appearance and personality. Rumors suggest that he even underwent plastic surgery to look more like his grandfather, Kim Il-sung. North Korean propaganda touts Kim Jong-un's exceptional military leadership skills. It's said that at the age of 16, he wrote his thesis analyzing the Korean War, earning him the reputation of a military genius among both North Korean officials and the general public. Although the Kim family presents itself to the outside world as divine, they themselves are filled with fear and anxiety. Because he proclaims himself a god, Kim Jong-un's health has become a top secret matter. After all, gods aren't supposed to get sick. But according to intelligence sources from South Korea and Japan, Kim Jong-un's train is equipped with a dedicated toilet designed to prevent his excrement from being obtained by outsiders for analysis of his health condition. If having dedicated restrooms on trains is understandable, then the following practice is truly jaw-dropping. During inspections of military facilities or factories within North Korea, Kim Jong-un also has a dedicated toilet and personal bathroom installed in his vehicle. In 2018, when he held talks with the South Korean leader at the Peace House in Panmunjom, and during the U.S.-North Korean summit in Singapore that same year, North Korea also provided dedicated restroom facilities for him. Even more strikingly, during Kim Jong-un's 2019 trip to Vietnam for the U.S.-North Korea summit, his sister Kim Jong-il personally carried an ashtray to collect his cigarette butts while he smoked on the platform at the Nanning station in China. Reports interpreted this gesture as preventing saliva-coated cigarette butts from being obtained by outsiders who might analyze them for health information. Kim Jong-un even returned the matches that he used to their original box. The hotel rooms that were used during the U.S.-North Korea summit were thoroughly cleaned by accompanying personnel, removing all traces, including hair and saliva, and completely eliminating any bodily fluid or DNA information from used tableware. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember to leave a comment below the video. This is really helping us to be seen all around the world. The more people who watch Front Page, the more freedom-loving people the world will have. And please hit the like button and hit the notification bell after subscribing. And please share this video with your friends and family because everybody deserves to know the truth.